It's the savvy side of 9 to 5. Listen.
It's not a lie if you believe it.
Laugh.
We had a little fun, because it's a very long day, you know.
And learn.
Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
This is The Focus Group with Tim Bennett.
All right, let's go already.
And John Nash.
Pucker up, buttercup.
With a focus on career, the consumer culture, and marketing from an LGBT point of view. We're all business, except when we're not.
Welcome to the Focus Group. I'm John Nash, and as always, I'm joined by my very good friend and co-host, Tim Bennett.
Hello.
Find us everywhere, YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, and now on Apple TV, Chromecast, and Roku on the Reverie app. I think we're going to be there in about another couple days. No, actually, by the time this airs.
We're on,
yeah. We ask that you subscribe, like, and rate us. If you're an iTunes follower or maybe on YouTube, by all means, do subscribe, like, and rate because that helps push the show up in the ratings factory. And Focus Group Radio is our handle for all things social media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We do have a number that you can call us at and give us some suggestions, comments, and ideas for the show. If we use any of that, you're going to get a pair of our free Focus Group Radio socks. The number is 914-362-8747. Again, it's 914-362-8747 or 914-FOCUS-GR.
Well, GR is for group radio,
as opposed to grr. I like the grr part. Yeah. All right. Welcome to the unofficial start of fall. We're post Labor Day, right?
Well, yeah, and I did a bad thing, which I said I wouldn't do. I always get upset when they push Christmas or push the holidays forward. So yeah. I was in the store and I found some pumpkin spice creamer for my coffee.
They started the pumpkin stuff really
already. We're full steam ahead with pumpkin spice. So I got some, and I got to tell you, I wasn't ready for it.
Now I
put it in the coffee, and I'm kind of like, eh.
September is one of my favorite, besides it being my birthday month, it's one of my favorite months because it's the best of summer
the weather
without the humidity. You know, you get these great, nice, warm days.
It's not a bad place in the country where September's...
Usually not, yeah.
September's good everywhere. It's great month. Great month. What else? Do you have any fall plans?
I wrapped up my animation coursework, so that was 9 months done, and I'm taking a semester off. I mentioned this before. So projects are, going back and revisiting some of my work, getting ready for the new semester in January. You and I officially will be on our road trip later today.
For the Rockies.
Yeah, because this is the weekend we're departing. So
you'll be in Washington. We are in Washington State. So so this is a pre-record. So we're in Washington State. On our way to Denver.
We just did a press event for VW, and we're on our way to Denver. Yeah, and if you follow us on social media, we're going to be doing a daily posting, nothing overwhelming, about some of our favorite pictures from the day, and some of Tim's commentary, which usually has a little edge to it.
Well, it's we're starting in Seattle, and then we're going to drive to Boise. We're taking the VW All-Track, the new all-wheel drive sport wagon. So we go to Boise, then we're going to go to Pocatello, and we're going to Billings, then we're going to Keystone, which is where Mount Rushmore is, and then to Denver.
And we are stopping briefly by Devil's Tower.
Where's that?
It's on the way to Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, I was speaking with the lodge where we're staying there. It's lesbian-owned.
In
Keystone,
which is near Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, it's right near Mount Rushmore. So she gave me some great advice. But it was tough to find a place there. Not a lot of easy places to stay there, I think, near Mount Rushmore. But we'll see.
I'm looking forward to it
follow
because the time that Tim and I spend in the car, I think our longest day is day one. I think that's like a 9-hour drive, right? But that's the longest. Most are 4 or 5, right?
Depends where we stop. The day from Billings to Mount Rushmore could have a lot of stops in it as well.
That's okay though.
Yeah,
I don't mind. You get in, you get out, and I love road trips. So looking forward to it.
Well, we'll see.
This one might be a little different. So I want to say also that the show is made possible by our excellent techs in the booth. We have Garrett and John, and now we get to queue up a new piece of imaging. So Tim, what caught your eye?
What caught my eye?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
See, that was a nice little...
You like this?
A little snappy.
We paid for that. So what caught my eye this week, so obviously we're right in the thick of electing a new president here in the U.S., And I saw this chart, and I thought it was interesting, and it surprised me, so it really did catch my eye. They took the 12 leaders of the world and posted their salaries. So do you have any? I know you probably saw the graphic.
I didn't look at the numbers, but I was always assuming the president made like 400 some thousand.
So it's 400, right?
Yeah,
So
okay.
400,000 for the U.S. But so I was looking at this, and a couple of them stood out for me. So for instance, number 12 would be the premier of China, Xi Jinping. What do you think he makes a year?
Well, we have the chart up
You
there.
have the chart up. So it's the second largest economy in the world. He
makes
got a
$20,000.
60% pay raise in 2015. He makes $20,600. So if you look at that list, does anything stand out? So it's China, India, number 11, Brazil, Italy.
Well,
Russia, I was surprised about it at 137,000.
Russia stands out at 137.
Because he's such a crook.
But that's the official.
That's the official number, right?
Right.
The UK and France, I was surprised at. So the UK comes in at 7 with because of the Brexit vote. It's the euro or the pound has lost over $30,000 in terms of salary for them.
You know
So
what
the salary dropped to 186,000.
That was the pound, right? That was
The pound,
okay.
right? And the French also, Francois Hollande did a pay cut of 30% as well. The French president used to be the second highest paid in the world. He's now number 6. What I thought was interesting about France and the UK was they've got so much left over from the colonial era
Yeah.
of governance. So when you look at some of these other countries, they don't necessarily have military bases or governance around the world. The UK and France still does have a lot of leftover vestige from their colonial footprint. I thought those salaries were low. South Africa stuck out to me, 206,000. South Africa?
Yeah.
It's not, I guess they're in the G20, but I thought that seemed awful high when you compare that with some of the other
Well,
countries.
when you compare it to Japan's economy, right, which is the PM of
so-
Japan's
so-
only making 40,000 more. Or something.
Right, so Japan's at 241,000. Angela Merkel, the German chancellor, she's at 242,000. This also surprised me. Canada, Justin Trudeau at 260,000 was a big surprise to me.
So, but for the U.S. president,
400,000,
and that's almost a savings.
highest in the world.
But it's almost a savings account because what are you paying for in the White House?
You do have to pay for your food. Yeah, so if you had people over for pizza,
Caught my eye right there.
oh, yeah, no, you have to pay for food. So unless you're having a state dinner, but if you were living there, the Obamas, the girls are there, they want pizza one night, they have to pay for that. If the kids come over, they have friends over, they pay for that.
So somehow Obama's given like a little bill for the budget of the White House.
They have to pay for their food.
Okay, for
No, they're not paying for the service and the
was just gonna
butlers
say,
and all
like,
the other
you know,
staff.
Ring, 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 ring.
Right.
Hamburger up on the
But they do pay for the food, which I always thought was a surprise. So, and they laughed. They said it's a fraction of their earning power. For instance, Hillary and Bill Clinton banked $10.6 million in speaking fees and royalties in 2015. Trump made $560 million in 2015. So they said this 400,000 really is chump change. But that caught my eye because I wasn't surprised about the U.S. I was surprised that it's the top of the pack, but I was surprised that Canada, for instance, coming in at number 2. I don't even think Canada has a naval base outside of Canada. When you think about running, running countries or running the
it's an administrative
footprint, right?
administrative position.
So, how about yourself?
I saw an interesting article accompanied with graphics, and the article's called "What Kids Wish Their Teachers Knew." So, a woman named Kylie Schwartz started teaching 3rd grade at Dual Elementary School in Denver. And she asked her class to finish a simple sentence. I wish my teacher knew ... about something. The responses were eye-opening. Some children were struggling with poverty. An absent parent. I wish my teacher knew that sometimes my reading log is not signed because my mom isn't around. And a parent taken away. I wish my teacher knew how much I miss my dad because he got deported to Mexico and I was 3 years old and I haven't seen him in 6 years. I mean, these are real things, right?
From the Clinton campaign?
They should. So she did a book. She did a recently published book called I Wish My Teacher Knew How One Question Can Change Everything for Our Kids. So I'll put up some of the, here. So I wish my teacher know I am smarter than she thinks I am. I wish my teacher know.
Maybe it's the teacher knows.
I wish my teacher knew that my dad works 2 jobs and I don't see him much. I mean, it's kind of heartbreaking when you read these. So let's see another one. I wish my teacher knew that I love my family. Or this one down here, I wish my teacher knew that my mom might get diagnosed with cancer in 2 days. I mean, so kids bring a lot of stuff to school that they don't talk about or share.
Very uplifting, caught my eye.
Caught my eye. Caught my eye, right? And what are the last 2 we have up here? Well, it does end on a good note. I'm going to have it end on a good note. I wish my teacher knew that my mom and dad are divorced and that I'm one of the middle child of 7 kids. 5 out of that are boys. But I like that little one at the end. I wish my teacher knew I love my family. Oh. And she circled the little picture. She circled herself. Okay,
go on.
I'll just finish by saying teachers are often people that can make things happen for students because they're the daytime, person in the student's life. But not always. For instance, she talks about how she had one child in her class who was a huge science fan, and she got him enrolled in a science-focused summer camp. But as it got closer to the end of the year, he got more and more upset and tense, and finally she dug a little deeper and realized that the kid's family could never afford to send him to the science camp. So even though she was trying to help, it ended up, but her whole point is, teachers can ask a simple question. You could find out something about a student and make a difference.
It's funny you brought that up because it reminds me of something that stuck with me forever. Obviously still sticks with me. In 4th grade, we had the assignment. Teacher asked, "What do you want for Christmas?"
Oh, boy. Classic.
And we had half the day to do this essay.
Half the day?
So from
to write?
9 in the morning till right before lunch, you had time to write this essay. So kids were going through their lists.
Okay.
I want a truck, I want a crane, I want a chemistry set, all the laundry list of what I wanted from Santa.
Barbie's dream house.
And one kid, in 30 seconds, had his handed in. I still remember his name, Danny Wojcik. Handed his in, and the teacher just looked at it and filed it, and I was like, how is he done so quick? And all he did on the big piece of paper, on the back of it, he wrote love, L-O-V-E, handed it in.
That's an A.
Right? I mean, think about it.
He didn't go through a rector set.
No, he didn't go through the whole thing. I want this. I want a bike. I wanted it. Yeah. So, which I thought was, and I always remembered that. I don't know why, but when you brought that up, I thought, God, that reminds me of, you ask that simple question, you don't know what you're going to get.
I wish my teacher knew. And now, what do you want for Christmas?
Yeah.
That's very selfless, right?
Yeah.
Very good. Okay.
So time for a little history.
Those who fail to learn from history are forced to repeat it. Enjoy this lesson from Tim. And remember, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
I love that the more things change, the more they stay the
It's
same.
how true, right?
Mr. L just told us that way back when. Today, September 17th, is Oktoberfest. It's the beginning of Oktoberfest, which is a traditional German festival, which dates all the way back to 1810, when the Crown Prince of Bavaria married the Princess of Saxony, Hildburghausen.
I love
the citizens of Munich were invited to all get together and drink and have a big celebration. Today, it's the world's largest fair. Over 5 million people traveled to Munich to take part.
I love the
festivities.
graphics you chose.
16 days.
What a beautiful woman carrying those.
Titsan.
Titsan the pirate, yeah.
And you've got, and it looks like Obama and Clinton
and Bush.
And Bush are celebrating too over there.
Of course, they gave Obama the traditional
Lederhosen
vest.
I tried to find the picture at Chevy Chase when they did European Vacation.
Yes.
I could not find an image of that.
Oh my God!
There's clips, but no image of it.
Okay.
1787, the United States, or the Constitution of the United States, was signed by the delegates at the Constitutional Convention in Philly. It was 229 years ago. I remember going to the 200th year celebration. It was quite an event in Philly. Right? It was a lot of fun. Yeah. 1872, Philip Pratt patented a version of the sprinkler system.
I have to tell you, growing up, our lawn sprinkler was our pool.
Savior.
Did you have the one that went back and forth?
You had to run around.
And you could run through it or run around. I loved the sprinkler.
1911, the very first transcontinental airplane flight started. It took C.P. Rodgers 82 hours to fly from New York City to Pasadena. He must have been on Delta. So it took him...
New York, 82
hours in 1911.
He had to stop. Look at how tiny the fuel tank is the size of what?
So he's from your old hometown, John, in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
He later lived in Havre de Grace, Maryland, which is where they send all the addicts at Subaru. That's where the rehab is in Havre de Grace, just so you know. he contacted scarlet fever. He was deaf in one ear and hearing impaired out of the other, which is just what you want for a pilot. He was related to a navigator, John Rodgers, and stopped in and visited with him. John worked at the Wright Company in Dayton, Ohio. He received 90 minutes of flying lessons from Orville Wright and then decided to take off. So there was a Randolph Hearst.
90 minutes.
90 minutes of a lesson. He was the 49th aviator license issued. So what he did is he decided to fly cross country because there was a $50,000 prize. William Randolph Hearst offered a $50,000 prize to anyone who could fly coast to coast in less than 30 days. And he got a sponsor, Ogden Armour, which sponsored the flight. He named his airplane after a grape soft drink called Vin Fizz. So he flew cross country. He was 19 days over the 30-day time limit. So he didn't win.
I didn't think about that. When I actually looked at the 82 hours, I was kind of like, I didn't even break it down into the 20. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't win the prize. He avoided the Rocky Mountains. He went to Chicago and then he went south to Texas. Then he turned over by San Antonio, ended up in Pasadena. And he missed the prize by 19 days. And later on, he was killed flying the same plane in California doing an exhibition at an air show. We always talk about that. Air shows kill people all the time.
Dangerous, yeah.
So it says, according to the records, he was the 127th airplane fatality since the beginning of aviation. 1920, he was killed too by birds. It was the first time birds crashed.
Bird strike.
Yeah. The American Football Association was formed in Canton, Ohio. It was the precursor to the NFL. Do you have a team in this season's hunt, John?
My team's the team those two are playing on.
Yeah, I knew you'd like those two. I picked those specifically for you if you're watching on YouTube.
You couldn't pick
a couple of young bucks.
better-looking guys, like two Ken dolls that play football. Okay.
John made fun of me. You heard earlier we're going to be heading to Mount Rushmore as you're listening.
That's the name of your memoir.
What?
You're going to have a memoir called "The Door Behind Lincoln's Head." It's
either
a Nancy Drew or a Hardy Boy mystery.
Do you not believe me?
I believe you. Yeah.
So we're in 1937. Abraham Lincoln's face was dedicated. And there actually is a secret door. It's a very Indiana Jones sort of thing. Hidden behind Abraham Lincoln's face on Mount Rushmore, the sculptor Gutzon Borglum designed a hidden room on Mount Rushmore. He died before he finished the project. They finished it up in the 1990s. They revived and made the chamber room. And if you're looking on the video, you'll see the room behind Lincoln's head. And it essentially is built to hold records for future generations, including all of our charter documents, so like the Declaration of Independence and so forth.
I don't think they store them there, though.
I don't think so either, but apparently it's all there, and this is what they say. You can't get in, though. It's too hard to get to. They said, unfortunately, tourists do not have access to the Hall of Records because the location is too difficult to get to. But there's a bunch of pictures of the inside. So, yeah, it's there behind Lincoln's head. I know you laughed at me.
I laugh, but I also think it's a perfectly apt title for a Tim Bennett biography or a Nancy Drew or Hardy Boy mystery.
What is that? Behind Lincoln's head?
Door Behind Lincoln's Head. Yeah, it's a made-up title. It's perfect.
In 1964, Bewitched premiered on ABC TV. 1983, Vanessa Williams, as Miss New York, became the very first black woman to be crowned Miss America. 32 years after resigning, she actually got a formal apology last year. The pageant, after 32 years, apologized to her for making her resign because of the nude pictures that had popped up from Penthouse.
Remember that.
So I was just looking at that. The woman next to her there, John, that's the very first Miss America. She represented Washington, D.C. She died in 95 at 90. She was the very first Miss America. The year was 1921. Margaret Gorman was her name.
Okay, you said the 21. It makes sense with the costume she's wearing. Yeah,
she's looked
it's almost
Statue
a
of Liberty.
flapper. Yeah. Flapper Liberty.
So so that was our history. Where are we with science today?
Science time.
Don't be blinded with science. Here's what you need to know from the week in science, according to John. It's Poetry in Motion.
One of my favorite albums, The Golden Age of Wireless, Thomas Dolby. We can't play the music because we'd be dinged for some kind of copyright thing, but you get the idea.
On the YouTube.
Okay. The week in science, I've got a little mixture of things. First, on the 17th of September, the Rosetta Stone was decrypted for the first time.
Is that what that was?
Yeah, Tim, on the graphics sheet for Garrett and John, Tim wrote down chicken scratch / hieroglyphics. You spelled hieroglyphics correct, the chicken scratch too. So
I can spell.
In 1822, at the French Académie Royale des Inscriptions, Jean-François Champollion wrote a paper called Lettre à un dossier describing his solution to the mystery of the triple inscription. So the Rosetta Stone is actually a stele, that's what they used to call these big things, that was erected at the coronation of the Egyptian king Ptolemy V. And all it really says, and this is a religious thing because the priesthood was trying to make sure that the pharaoh stayed like as the most important person in the universe, basically said it was a decree that established the divine cult of the new ruler. So he was divine from the heavens. But it was done in 3 languages. The one above the hieroglyphics is ancient Greek, and that's the one that this Frenchman was able to, Champollion was able to use the ancient Greek to match to the hieroglyphics and gave us the first way of reading hieroglyphics. Okay, so that was that.
Yeah. It's the cult of personality.
Well,
Beginning of the cult of personality.
Yeah, all power,
and
all power rests with the Godhead of the King. Yeah, all right. So there was a chicken scratch hieroglyph stone leads to this is Tim.
Cult of personality.
Sadly, in 1995, at the age of 88, Orville Redenbacher passed away, and we all know him as the man who brought us Orville Redenbacher popcorn. He was an American agronomist. Now, do you know what an agronomist is? So he was a scientist, actually.
Agronomist, agriculture, agron.
Very close. An agronomist is a specialized type of soil and plant scientist, also known as a certified professional agronomist, certified crop advisor.
He's a dirtbag.
He dealt with dirt, right? He loved popcorn. It was his favorite snack and on his family's farm, and he grew it to earn extra money when he was a child. In the 40s, while managing a 12,000-acre farm where he was growing popcorn, Redenbacher and a friend, Charles Bowman, used the fields to experiment with corn hybrids from Purdue University, which ultimately led to him creating a better popping corn. Now, John's going to cue up an old 1987 TV ad for Redenbacher, and I want you to pay attention to something that's a mystery to me. At the very end of the ad, he dumps this thing, all the kernels into a bowl, and he said, look, no old maids. I don't know what, I think an old maid refers to an unpopped kernel.
Yeah, you never heard that?
No, but it's kind of derogatory, right? I mean,
that's advertising.
Well, okay.
Stereotype,
So let's
right?
watch the 87 clip here.
Hello, I'm Orville Redenbacher from Valparaiso, Indiana, and this is 4 ounces of my Orville Redenbacher's gourmet popping corn. And this is 4 ounces of your ordinary popping corn.
Did you have a popper like
That's
that?
popping, okay? But look at mine, it's blowing it
Mine,
right over the
yours, I love
faucet.
that.
My gourmet
It's like a rice
popping corn
cooker.
pops up lighter and fluffier than ordinary corn. Eats better, too. See any old maids? Near 100% pop. Orville Redenbacher's gourmet popping corn. Try it.
So apparently that was controversial.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the old maid comment
maids,
was.
yeah.
I never heard of that one. So that was Orville Redenbacher. He passed away in 95 at the age of 88. This next one is a quickie. In 1848, Hyperion, the 8th moon of Saturn, was discovered. Now, in Tim's description for our
Pumice stone.
good guys in the booth, it was pumice stone. That's a moon orbiting Saturn.
That's a moon?
And last but not least, my brother-in-law, Steve, taught me what this name actually meant years ago. In 1953, WD-40 was officially patented and invented. And years ago, Steve taught me that WD stands for Water Displacement Formula. And this is the 40th version of the formula to move water out of the Water Displacement 40. But check out the ad that used to run for WD-40. Do you have tight nuts? Or a rusty tool, then you need WD-40 and buy it in the man-sized pressure pack.
Well, that's funny.
And that ad goes back. That's from 1952, I think. So
That's great. And I didn't get a chance to look, but there's so many different things that people use WD-40 for.
Yeah.
Millions of things.
It was actually developed under a military contract to help them keep the nuclear missiles and all the parts on the nuclear missiles functional.
Ready to go.
And that's why it was the Water Displacement 40. So WD stands for Water Displacement.
Wow.
You learn something new every day, don't you?
Yep. So we have business birthdays.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
So we have 2 business birthdays. One of them is today, September 17th. He died in 1985 at 84, but John Willard Marriott Sr., who was an American entrepreneur and businessman, he was founder of the Marriott Corporation. He had a daughter, adopted daughter named Mary Ott, and she slept around a lot, so he decided to name a hotel chain after her. So that's how they got the name Marriott.
That is such a lie. But you
Okay, so you are paying attention.
But you sold it quite well. I was waiting for the real punchline because I've heard this joke
Marriott.
before.
She was a good sport.
No,
So they decided she was a whore, and they decided to name a chain of hotels
there was a
after her.
line that you used to use though about she knew she had more ass than
In
a
the
toilet.
Pacific Rim or something. Anyway, so no, but the Marriott company rose from a small root beer stand actually in Washington, D.C. in 27. By the time of his death, they had over 1,400 restaurants, 143 hotels, and a cruise line.
I don't like being tested, by the way.
We paid attention.
I was wondering how far you were going to take that odd thing.
Well, you know why I did that? Because yesterday you and I had a conversation about something that it acted like it was the first time you ever heard it.
Really? What was it about?
On our old show, I talked about, we did an app called No Mo Robo.
Oh, yeah. Well,
And you were complaining about getting all these robocalls. And I said, how come you haven't used No Mo Robo? Well, what's that? Well, we talked about it for 15 minutes on the show.
let me jot it down again.
You still don't know it. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to try to snow him on this Marriott. So you did pay attention.
Okay.
On Sunday, September 18th, it's Neil Clark Warren's birthday. He's going to be 82 years old. Psychologist, Christian theologian, seminary professor, chairman and co-founder of eHarmony.
I didn't know that theologian part.
Oh, yeah, that's why they didn't allow gay people initially on the dating app.
Okay.
So eHarmony was for Christian singles. Remember, it was all marketed like that.
Let's break bread together. Let's have the fishes and have the loaves.
So he and his son had created a company that offered seminars and teaching tools based upon his books. And when that was a disaster, in 2000, he saw the need to redesign the company and created eHarmony. And he went out of retirement and he went and retired in 07 and came back in 2012 to get it back on track. So that was Neil Clark Warren, 82, on Sunday, September 18th.
Okay.
Those are their birthdays. So it's the focus group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the redefinition of the 4 Ps of marketing. So stay with us.
Brought to you by the award-winning Volkswagen Golf family. Let's make some money.
He's the business manager, let him manage.
This is the Focus Group.
Champagne! Champagne for everyone!
Welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash here with my good friend and co-host Tim Bennett. Find us on your platform of choice, and to do that, visit focusgroupradio.com. We've got everything listed there. Focus Group Radio is our social media handle. That's Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. Did I miss Instagram? Did I miss anything? As Tim promised before we went to break, Tim is actually the person who taught me something called the 4 Ps of marketing. I might have learned it back in school, but you definitely learned it and lived it. And so there was an article that came out in Advertising Age with the provocative headline, if you're a marketing person, right? Forget your Ps, mind the 4 Ms of marketing. It's all about merchandise, market, media, and message. So why don't you refresh everybody for what the 4 Ps were?
So the 4 Ps were, I had a professor, Dr. Taylor, at Marietta College, and I thought he was going to espouse some sort of wisdom on us.
You're listening?
He was a he was a Harvard MBA, and he said, a lot of you want to go off and get an MBA. He goes, what I'm going to tell you right now, you don't even have to finish the rest of this semester. He goes, all marketers only need to know 4 things. So he used the 4 Ps of marketing: product, price, place, and promotion. And I saw him recently, 30 years later, and he says, it's still true, isn't it? And because he had followed along with my career, and I said, yeah, it is.
Just the way you imitated his voice.
Still true, isn't it?
Now he's a codger. Still true.
And he is. So his whole deal was, if your marketing process and the steps you go through with product, price, place, and promotion are followed through thoroughly, you should be a success if you've done your homework right. What you found here was changing the 4 Ms the 4 Ps to the 4 Ms, which were merchandise, market, media, and message.
Yeah.
So what did you think?
I actually said to you before we began the show today that it was just a fancy way of repackaging the same thinking. So he's just swapped out a couple of terms. So in place of product, which I guess sounds pedestrian to some, it's now, merchandise.
Right. What I didn't understand.
Which is okay, because he's classifying merchandise as far beyond a product. It's people provide services, right? So it's services, people, ideas, movements, organizations, cities, states, counties, countless other conceptual ideas. So instead of product, perhaps a better term to describe the identity to be marketed is merchandise.
See, I called BS on that. My opinion, I didn't tell you this at lunch, was that I think this is similar to every business book we've read is the same thing with a different title.
Yep. Yeah, reinventing the wheel.
When he said merchandise was services, I thought, you as an ad agency, you provide service.
Yep.
That's a product. You wouldn't call that merchandise.
I would call it a product, yeah.
What product do you deliver to your client? What do you deliver to your client? So I thought the merchandise was a stretch.
However, I do think embedded in this is a thought process you've used successfully in your career, and he says right off the bat, so the first step in any marketing program is to identify we're putting it in parentheses, merchandise or product, right? In great detail, its name, its price, its competitions, its size, weight, position in consumers' minds. You still have to do that, whether we call it merchandise or a product, right? You still have to know, what are you selling? What's the proposition?
And then in place of place, which is where you would sell it or whatever, or who to, the step 2 was market. So it's merchandise and then market. And market really is targeting what you're selling, making sure that you have a unique selling proposition, making sure that you have targeted correctly what it is that you're selling and what your message is going to be, which I was confused by because I thought that was also the last point as well.
But you know that he used automobile manufacturers in this example as a group that may or may not be identifying their market correctly. And he even cited Subaru in here as being someone who correctly identified who their market was.
Right, but then he contradicted himself later on.
Which I have a big star right there next to the contradiction. I know what you're talking about, yeah.
No,
However, again, he said marketing is like warfare. No military general would attack on all fronts. Rather, the point of attack is crucial to an army's long-term success. So in today's landscape of marketing, know who is the consumer of that merchandise / product, right?
Right, and the Subaru example would be people that had a propensity or that valued all-wheel drive.
Right,
so when Subaru decided to change to an all-wheel drive car company, how do we target those consumers that value that? So you're not everything to everybody. So that was the market piece of it. Number 3 was media, and it said it's difficult to launch a product through consumer advertising. They used this as example with Starbucks because he said that not everybody pays attention as they did in the past. But again, that replaces place, so media, so product, price, place. So media is really what form of media are you going to use or how are you going to get your message out? Is that how you read that? So it could be digital, it could be brick and mortar, it could be print, it could be radio, it could be TV. What is the best way to get your message out?
Yeah, you're right. I was looking at I was thinking that maybe media was the slot in for promotion. If you looked at product, price,
right.
Place, and promotion. But you are correct. He's not using it as the same thing. My takeaway on the media side, and this could be for any business owner, large or small, you have limited dollars to spend, right?
Right.
And nowadays, oh my God, where are you going to go? So I agree with him that PR is an excellent way of getting, hopefully, your message out there. But come on, how many emails do you and I get a week for books and people? And so PR could be effective if you get a hook or if someone does a great story.
Yeah, and I think the smart way is that, again, if you had 15 ways to reach the consumer, what are going to be the top 5 that you think are going to be able to move the needle for you? And PR may be one of them.
It may be one aspect of it. But I thought that you actually practiced a very smart version of this when we were working with you, when our agency was doing Subaru work. you would actually have a very clear idea of how you wanted to spend your media dollars on a year-by-year basis. And it was usually predictable, not in a bad way, but you'd say, okay, we spent this much last year here, let's move it over here. But you knew that we were doing it year over year, so even if you were shifting your dollars around, you were still going to be reaching the people you wanted to reach, just in slightly different ways.
And there was a consistent message.
The key there is the consistent message, yeah.
And that's number 4. He said the marketing mix ends with a selection of message. Hopefully, a singular idea is expressed in one medium with one target market. And he again used the example of the auto companies.
Yeah.
And this is where I thought he contradicted himself. Earlier, he mentioned Subaru about saying that they decided to be the all-wheel drive car company. That was a singular thought. That was a selling proposition. But then he says, you can't market everything under one brand name because you have no target market to appeal to. That's what Subaru did. If you think of any of the Subaru's success, it was all about Subaru. There was no models that were advertised when they got away from being the car company. So when you talked about emotion and the love campaign, it was really about the emotion that the brand gave you. So he totally contradicted himself because he went and gave some examples of Ford, Chevy, and Toyota saying that their image was cloudy.
Well, in their messaging, Ford, go further, Chevrolet, find new roads, Toyota, let's go places, and Honda, the power of dreams.
Right.
I mean, really, him stacking those 4 taglines like that, and that was, by the way, $2.4 billion was spent on that kind of thinking of those 4 brands. You are right.
They're still the 4 largest car brands, too.
Yeah.
So as much as he thinks that's a bad thing, they're still the largest.
You and I both know the automakers do this as well. Like, okay, I want to say 2 or 3 Super Bowls ago, was it GM did that Detroit, that big long ad?
Chrysler.
Yeah, it was Chrysler.
Yeah, imported from Detroit.
Imported from Detroit. So that's a brand.
Yeah.
That's a brand story. But then you have a portfolio. You have the trucks. You have the
You want to talk about Jeep. You want to talk about Dodge, right? You want to talk about Fiat, right? You go
I
through
guess,
that.
as with every business article I read, I take away some good things and I discard what I've read before in different forms. So there's a lot of good things in here, but by no means would you ever want your marketing department to run exactly like this.
It's academic. And that's what I think you find out from a lot of these, when we mention the business books. A lot of this is academic. In theory, I think there's elements of these 4 things, whether it's the 4 Ps or the 4 Ms, there's elements. And I think it's being prepared and being organized. And I think that's what, when you have success, is to know who you are as a brand and then execute on it.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So that was the 4 Ms, which we kind of tossed in the garbage, I think.
The poor guy who wrote this line.
We should write our own articles.
Well,
We got to get some of these people on and debate them.
That's my thought. You just took it out of my head. I think that we should have him on to say, hey,
To challenge them.
challenge him to say,
Tell me how this is different than the 4 Ps. You're just repackaging.
that's the new focus group mantra on guests.
Is that it?
Well, yeah, it's not about like happy.
No more happy?
Well, we'll be happy. We'll be happily shredding them. No.
So hey, that's we'll post that article on our Facebook page as well. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got a quick little bit about the biggest financial regret that retirees have.
Of older Americans.
Older Americans have, and I was kind of not surprised.
Yeah.
So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Brought to you by the Volkswagen Golf GTI. Named one of Car and Driver's 10 best, 10 years in a row. You're listening to The Focus Group
I said to my girlfriend just the other day, monsters are interesting, I said.
with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
And I'll bet you meet a lot of interesting people, too.
Welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash with Tim Bennett. That's one of my favorite rejoins. That's a term that we use. It's a rejoin. It brings you back. And that's Tim did that one. Because I didn't know you were such a big Warner Brothers fan.
A term that we use. as if you just invented it.
Garrett and John use it too. Other people do too. But I'm
Rejoin?
saying,
Yeah,
we're
rejoin.
teaching people about things. So
Nash,
as Tim teed it up on the last segment, an article that we both came across in Yahoo Finance was, this is the #1 financial regret of older Americans. I was not surprised when I read this, and you were not surprised either, right? Because we hear it a lot,
Yep.
and I think it's an important thing to discuss. Fully 3 in 4 of the people that were polled by this Bankrate.com survey admit they harbor financial regrets. Their biggest regret not saving for retirement early enough. Nearly 1 in 5 Americans put this in the #1 spot. What's more, among those 65 and up, 27% said this was the biggest regret, compared with only 17% of those aged 30 to 49. And the article goes on to talk about how costly it is to wait to save for your retirement. So a person who's in their 20s, let's say 25, who starts to save $300 a month, here, okay, we're going to go with the math. We'll criticize this in a minute. Assuming a 5% return yearly on that investment, you can't guarantee that, we'll have about $450,000 saved by the age of 65, despite only contributing $144,000. Meanwhile, if that person waits until the age of 35 to do the exact same process, they'll only have $108,000. They'll have contributed 108, which will lead to $225,000 basically in the bank by 65. Now, before we continue, I just want to say that I heartily disagree with this 5% return on investment.
Well, I don't know anyone who's getting 5%, unless you play the stock market correctly.
The market, it continues to, as gut-wrenching as it is for many people to watch it swing sometimes in the bad direction, it remains the best vehicle, I believe, and many people say that, to gain those higher than 5% returns. But back when we were younger, I would open up a passbook savings account and get 5 or 7% interest on savings. What do you get now? 0.01 or something?
Right, but mortgages were also at 12% and 15% then too. So,
That's true. That's
true. That's the one of the caveats you have to pay attention to. Aside from not saving for retirement, then they said some other regrets were emergency expenses.
Yeah.
Taking too much in student loan debt, taking on too much credit card debt, not saving for education, children's education, buying a house bigger than you can afford. I remember we had Jeff Yeager on, the world's...
What is his official tagline?
It was the world's biggest cheapskate. And I remember him talking about retirement and going to see a financial advisor, and him saying to us that a lot of these numbers, when you do this 5%, or you should save X amount of your salary or have 3 months in reserve, is all well and good. He said, but he lives differently than maybe the average person. And he said, and when you think about it, we all do live differently. Someone might have a smaller house. He has no kids. We have no children.
Yeah.
So what we would be saving for, what we would spend on, is probably different. So the one size fits all for retirement doesn't necessarily work. It's directional. But
and in fact, everybody should do themselves a favor and buy a book that's 60 pages or 70 pages long. It's called The Millionaire Next Door.
Yeah.
And it basically is a treatise or a hypothesis, or in fact, that if you live below your means, you don't go crazy with buying things you can't afford the day you buy them, you save for things, you will end up being someone who could be self-reliant in your retirement, the whole bit. And,
what year do you want to retire? How old do you want to be?
I saw my financial advisor about 6 months ago, and he jokingly said to me, he goes, "So you're retiring at 55?" And I laughed, and I said, No. He goes, "That's what you wanted to do like 10 or 15 years ago."
We wrote that down.
Yeah, it was all in the plan. He goes, "You're not on the plan." And he swings this
We're both
monitor
off that
around,
plan.
And he shows me this graph, and the graph is,
But you can't even take money out of 55, can you?
you
Over
can't.
401k. So, unless you were
stupid
independently
goal to
wealthy.
begin with.
But there's time to buy PowerPoint.
So I said
Powerball
my
tickets.
new goal was stepping off the treadmill around 70.
70.
Yeah.
I'll be seeing you down in Boca.
Well, at 70, the graph looked nicer. It was better.
You think you'll work all the way to 70? I guess you will.
I can't see myself not doing something. I think when we say we're going to work till 70, I don't necessarily think that means it may be a 40 or 50 hour a week job.
Yeah, Walmart is a greeter.
Oh, well, that's welcome.
Pays.
$9 an hour.
You would be a horrible greeter. Be like, John, you can't stop you got to get him in here to start shopping. Don't start talking to him. Get him moving.
Some of the greeters I've met, Anyway, one of the things I wanted to go circle back on with you was a couple of things that people can do that I think are really smart, and it's these little things, saving for an emergency. So I was surprised to see that most people don't even have 1,000 saved. There's a percentage of people that have only 1,000 in the bank. And only 17% of these polled had between 1,000 and 8,000 for emergencies. That's the minute you don't have that kind of resource. That's credit card territory.
Yep.
That's borrowing from people. So I think a really smart, simple thing to do for a lot of people is take a look at. You can start saving anytime you want.
Right.
And I don't. And yes, it's a big regret. Older Americans are saying we regret not saving sooner. So I take that message. I hear it. But in day-to-day life, how is it that bad to have a goal of saying I need to have a savings account that has 3 months of my living expenses? So in case the job shifts or something happens, or a friend or a spouse or a partner gets sick,
The smartest thing I did when I turned 25 is I talked to a contemporary of mine, and he was really involved with finances and managing his finances. And I was making probably $23,000 a year. But he said, save $200 out of every paycheck.
Yep.
Have it automatically just taken out.
Gone.
And you won't miss it. And I did that for, a number of years. And when I bought my first house, that money was there. I had saved over $25,000, which did my kitchen, and was able to put a roof on the house and do some repairs, which is money that I probably would have blown through that.
Yeah, that's
money
not
had I
the only
saved
smart
it.
saving things you did.
So, did I do other ones?
Oh, you have one that I thought was so clever. Okay, so most Americans have a car payment.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was the other one.
So go ahead and tell
So
that
because
one.
I worked for a car company, I didn't have a car payment because I had a car for
You were an
use.
executive.
And so I took what my car payment would be every month
and put it away.
Put that away as well. So, but a lot of people listen. I was fortunate and I was frugal and I worked hard, but a lot of people don't have that luxury. So I get it.
I know a lot of people who are truly
If I had
paycheck
kids,
to
I wouldn't.
paycheck, and
Yeah.
they're not crazy spenders. It's just that's the reality of what they're making, what they have to spend. But my goal is to be a little more on top of the emergency savings.
Boy, poor Bob.
No, not in a bad way. We are. Oh, and then here's a weird one for you. Remember when we had a blackout in New York? I think it was like a decade ago. Some tree limb or something hit a power line upstate. All the ATMs were down. You couldn't do anything with a card, right?
Yep.
And so from that day forward, we now have a box with important papers in it and an envelope filled with 20s, because when the power grid goes down, cash might be, well, just for a few
Debbie
days.
Downer Nash.
It's an
Oh my
emergency kit.
God!
You
First
save
you
it.
had the poor teachers with the destitute child writing notes. Now you're waiting for the dystopia to happen here. Merry Christmas.
Come knock on our door when things are going into the shitter.
John,
We'll give you a $20 bill and a flashlight.
Give me an IOU for 30 and I give you 20. You and Bob, they're working the corner of 5th and Columbus. So anyway, or wherever that is. So hey, it's the focus group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Thanks for joining us. If you're watching this, we're not going to be shy about the fact that this is a pre-record because we're on the road with Volkswagen. So we want to thank Volkswagen for having us out in Seattle, and follow along on our Facebook page, which is Focus Group Radio. And on Twitter, you'll be able to see what our daily adventures are as we take the Gulf All Trek from Washington State to Denver. So everyone have a good week. We'll see you soon.
It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Formerly on Sirius XM Satellite Radio and now accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.